Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Yevamos Samach Daled. We are on the very bottom of Samach Gimel Amud Beis, Tanu Rabbanan. Back on the topic of the mitzvah of Peru and Rivu. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a brayso. Moshe Rabbeinu declares, Ubenucha Yoimar, when the Aron would rest. Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, Shuba Hashem, come back and have your Shechina rest upon Rivavois, Alpha Yisrael, Rivavois, the myriads, the 10,000s, and Alpha, the thousands of Yisrael. Twice 10,000, twice 1,000. What does this teach us? Melamed, we learn from here. She'ein ha'shechina shoire, al pochos mishnei alofim, u'shnei Rivavois mi-Yisrael. In order for the Shechina to rest properly, we need at least twice 10,000 and twice 1,000, 22,000 of Yisrael. Now, Harei Shahu Yisrael, Shnei Alofim, Ushnei Rivavois. Now suppose we have a multitude of 22,000 of Bnei Yisrael, Chaser Echad, missing just one. So 22,000 minus one. We don't get Shechina. Whose fault is it? We have this fellow who is not involved in having kids. He's the culprit. He's the missing one. Isn't this very fellow the cause of the Shechina not resting upon Klal Yisrael? It could have been his child that completed the quota. This highlights the importance of every individual amongst us to be Isaac. B'pirya v'rivya. Abba Chanan Amar, Mishum Rabbi Lezer, Chayav Misa. One who's not involved in having kids is Chayav Misa Shenemar Ubonim. This is by Nadav and Avihu, who passed away, who died on the day of the Chanukah HaMishkan. And the pasuk explains, Ubonim lo yahayu lahem, they had no children. What do we learn from here? Apparently, hayu lahem bonim. Had they have had children, loy mesu, they would not have died. This also contributed to their death. Acherim Imrim, others explain, one who is not Isaac and Pru Revu Geirim L'Shechina Shetistalak Mi Yisrael. He causes that Shechina should leave Klal Yisrael. So before we spoke about our specific a number of 22,000, we're going to this approach. Has a general effect on the diminishing of the Hashras HaShechina. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, L'yois l'cholei lakim, u'lezarecha acharecha. Hashem is your, Klal Yisrael is Hashem, and to your children who follow you. It's one package. Bizman shezarecha acharecha, when you have children following you, Shechina shoyra, then we have the Shechina who rests upon us. Ein zarecha acharecha, but if there are no children to perpetuate Klal Yisrael, Al mi shoyra, upon whom will the Shechina rest? Alo eitzim al avonim, on sticks and stones. Maral explains like this, based on the Gemara in Nedarim, which tells us that if one does not have children, ein lo yibanim is choshev kemes. It's tantamount to not being alive. Why? What's the connection between children and life? Says the Maharal, very simple. What is chayim? Continuity, eternity, an uninterrupted existence. That's a true chayim. Children perpetuate. They make it one continuum. That adds to a person's element of chayim. It just keeps on going and going. Shechina is the ultimate epitome of chayim and life, source of life. Shechina is only shira upon Klal Yisrael, which exhibits chayim. There's a continuity. There are generations that just keep it going. And that's when Shechina is shira. A lack of that creates a lack of Shechina, according to the Maharal. Okay, so we see the importance of being involved in having children, bringing about the Shechina. Continues the Mishnah. Nosa isha v'shaha ima eser shanim v'lo yalda. What should a man do? It's after 10 years of marriage, there are no children. Einai rashayli batal. That's not an excuse. He can't just give up there. Rashi explains he has one of two choices: either divorce her and try again, or marry a second wife. Of course, this was before, Cher and Rabbeinu Gershom were disallowed 2 wives. In any case, the point of the Mishnah is 10 years is the litmus test. That is the determinant factor here. After 10 years, you have to try again. Girsha, suppose Ruvain was Megarish Rachel after 10 years of no children. Muteras l'nosei la'achar. Of course, she can go on and marry somebody else. Perhaps she'll be more lucky with the second fellow. Rashi explains, we don't say, well, apparently she's at fault, she's the barren one, she's the akora. The other fellow who needs to have children shouldn't go marry her. No. Perhaps we'll blame it on the husband. It's Ruvain's fault. He wasn't zeicha to have children from her. So she's certainly allowed to go remarry. What happens then? V'rashai hasheni. Let's say there are no children there as well. It's another year, no children. They can wait up to 10 years again. V'rashai hasheni lishois imot yud shanim. They can stay married for another 10 years. V'imi pila. Suppose an isha miscarries. Moina misha pila. She begins counting at that point. It sort of resets the calendar, the clock. 10 years start all over again. Tanarabanan. No, so isha v'isha ima eser shanim lo yoda. Suppose he was married for 10 years without children. Yoitzi v'tin ksuva. He should divorce, but he has to pay the ksuva. Who's to say that she's at fault? Maybe he's at fault. Perhaps he's the one that was not worthy of having children, therefore he can't blame it on her. He has to pay her the ksuba obligations. Now, how do we know that 10 years is the limit when it comes to this halach? Although we don't have an absolute raya to this point, we do have some sort of indication and hint in the Torah. Miketz eser shanim l'sheves Avram be'eretz Canaan. Avram Avinu with Sarah Imenu after 10 years of living in Eretz Yisrael, no children. What did Avram do? He took Hagar, and eventually Sarah as well gave birth to Yitzchak. So we see from here that 10 years is the maximum allowed until they make the next move. Now Tosfos asks, why isn't this a raya? We're looking for a raya that after 10 years you have to make a move. He says that it's not really a raya because we can't learn from here that he has to divorce his wife. That's a chiddush. All we see is that he took another wife. He took Hagar. So it's not a clear raya to the halacha in our Mishnah, which tells us that he has to divorce. Halacha in the Brisa, he has to divorce. Unless he takes another wife. We don't see that. We don't see it to that extent. The halacha remains a halacha, but we have a sort of indicator on the fact that Avram Avinu waited only 10 years until he made that move. In any case, we see another interesting point from this pasuk. Why does the pasuk have to point out it had been 10 years l'sheves Avram be'eretz Canaan after having moved to Eretz Yisrael? 10 years of residing in Eretz Yisrael, and then he decided to make that move. Lamedcha, this teaches us, you never know which factors are at play. She'ein yeshivas chutza la'aretz oile loy min aminyan. All the years in which he lived in chutz la'aretz, Rashi says, many years they lived in Padan Aram. That doesn't count. Perhaps the avoin, the sin of living in chutz la'aretz and lacking the schus of Eretz Yisrael, was a contributing factor. It's the only time you have a true indication of what's going on is after having resided in Eretz Yisrael for 10 years and still childless, then you know there's something wrong. Based on this, based on the fact that we see that we do account for all types of factors which may be contributors to this situation. Therefore, if you have any other mitigating factor, he's unwell, she's unwell, and they're both in prison, in which case there's minimal interaction there. Ein oilin lo min minyan, that doesn't count for 10 years. Amali Rav Rav Nachman. V'leilif mi Yitzchak. You say it's 10 years. As we see by Avram Avinu, perhaps it's 20 years. Give them more of a chance. 20 years. As we see by Yitzchak Avinu. Yitzchak ben Abraham Shana. Rivka. How old was he when he married Rivka? 40. How long did they wait? Yitzchak ben Shishim Shana Bladas Oisam. It was all of 20 years later, when they finally had their first children. Apparently 20 years is okay. Amar Lacey responded, you can't prove anything from Yitzchak. Don't you know the Avos and the Yevamos were physically unable to bear children? Yitzchak Akarhaya. Yitzchak was barren. He couldn't physically have any children. And he knew that his situation was attributed to that, and therefore there was no point in him going marrying somebody else, because medically speaking he was at fault. Says the Gemara, Yachi Avraham Nami Akrahaya. If that's the case, then what about Avram Avinu? What's the raya from Avram? As we're going to see soon in the pasuk, Avram Avinu as well was medically unable to bear children. So how can you bring a raya from the halacha of Avram Avinu, the fact that he waited 10 years? Perhaps 10 years was only because he was an akar. Says the Gemara, bar Abba. So Rashi explains like this. You're right, Yitzchak was an akar. Avram was an akar. And you can't really prove much. On the surface, there's nothing much to prove from these cases because they were anomalies. They were unable to bear children. The raya is because if then, why does the pasuk have to point out that it was after 10 years of residing in Eretz Yisrael when Avram decided to take Hagar? What's the point of mentioning that? Apparently, the pasuk here is imparting to us a lesson, a general halach, a general formula in all cases. 10 years is the limit. And that forms the basis for this halacha. Now, so why did the pasuk speak about Yitzchak being 20 years married? What's the point of mentioning that? If not to teach us that you can wait 20 years? Oh, the answer is, there's another reason why the pasuk would mention that. Unrelated to our sugya, hahu miboyle, that's needed like Rabbi Yehuda Kessler. Dam Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yechanan. This is a Gemara in Megillah. Lama nimnu shneisav shal Yishmael. Why did the pasuk even get involved in mentioning how many years Yishmael lived? He was a Rasha. What's the point of discussing that? It was just to be able to use that as an indicator, in which case you can figure out how many years Yaakov lived, and Rashi explains based on the Gemara Megillah. This way we can figure out that in fact he spent 14 years in the yeshiva on the way to Lavan, and this teaches us a profound lesson in Kibbutz Aim that although he was punished for the other years, but not for Talmud Torah years, because Talmud Torah overrides Kibbutz Aim, as discussed in the Gemara Megillah Yud Zayin. So that's the purpose of the pasuk, that's speaking about how old Yitzchak was here, how old he was there. That all that serves the basis for that calculation, which teaches us this lesson about Talmud Torah is greater than Kibbutz Aim. But bottom line is, the other pasuk about Avraham Avinu residing 10 years in Eretz Yisrael, after which he went to Hagar, that indeed is a zeichel davar, a true indicator to this concept that 10 years without children is the uppermost limit. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Indeed, the Yitzchak Avinu, Akar Haya, Yitzchak Avinu was an Akar, barren, he could not bear children. Shneimar Vayetar Yitzchak Hashem. L'noichach ishtoi. After 20 years, Yitzchak stood before Hashem. Vayetar Yitzchak Hashem. L'noichach ishtoi. Opposite his wife. Now, if it was only his wife who needed help, if she was medically unfit, How would the pasuk say it? It would say al ishtoi. He davened to Hashem on behalf of his wife. It doesn't say that lo nemar, elo rather lo noichach ishtoi. He just stood opposite her. There was something wrong with him, and she knew there was something wrong with her, and they both stood opposite each other, asking Hashem, begging Hashem for compassion about to address their personal medical condition, each one his own. They're both in this state of akurim. If that's the case, when Hashem responds, it says, Vayetar loy. Hashem acquiesced to him. If they were both involved, Yitzchak was davening for his own condition, Rivka for hers, Vayetar lahemi boile. Wouldn't the pasuk say that Hashem turned to both of them? The answer is, they both petitioned, but the primary recipient of Hashem's compassion was Yitzchak. Hashem responded primarily to Yitzchak. Why? You can't compare the level, the value, the power of Yitzchak Avinu's tefillah. Yitzchak, who was a tzaddik ben tzaddik, that can't be compared to tefillah's tzaddik ben Rasha, to Rivka Imenu, who was a tzaddikus, the daughter of a Rasha, Lavan. His tefillah was more powerful, more effective, and that's why the pasuk says, Vayetar loy. He was the primary recipient of Hashem's response. Amar Yitzchak, why is it? Why was it that our avos were medically unable to bear children? You know why? Unbelievable. Hashem desires the tefillah of a tzaddik. The Medrash adds the imois, same question regarding the imois. Why were the imois barren? Why were they akurim? Physically deficient in this regard, because Hashem is misavel tefillah shel imois. So it's all the way around. It's not that we have a need and that's why we have to daven. Just the opposite. Hashem wants us to be close to Him. Tefillah is the ultimate closeness to Hashem. Hashem wants that. Hashem is looking for that. So Hashem creates that need. So now we need to daven to Him and get close to Him. And how powerful are the tefillahs of tzaddikim? Rabbi Yitzchak, lama nimshal tefillas shel tzaddikim ka'asar. Pasuk uses a very interesting term to describe the tefillah of Yitzchak. Vayertar, and yertar is miloshan asar. Asar is like a pitchfork. Why compare the tefillah of a tzaddik to a pitchfork? The answer is ma asar zeh mahapech hatfuah mimakom l'makom. Just as a pitchfork has the ability to overturn the tfuah, bring it from one place to the other. Kach tefillas shel tzaddikim ma'apeches midoysav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Likewise, the tefillas of a tzaddik are so powerful, so impactful. They have the ability to overturn Hashem's midas, midas ragzonus, from anger, midas rachmanos, to compassion. Amar bi Ami, Avram v'Sara tumtumin hayu. Avram and Sarah are both tumtums. They're simonim of Zachar and Nekeva were covered up. And Tosfos brings that a tumtum doesn't have the ability to be moiled. And Hashem recreated them, reformed their bodies. Shenemar habitu al tzur chaytzavchem. Rashi says chaytzavchem is a lashon. Hashem formed the aver of the Zachar to Avram. Vel makevas bor nukartem. This is lashon Nekeva. Hashem created the cavity, the nekev for Sarah. How do we know it's Avram and Sarah? Uksiv habitu al Avram avichem. This is the next pasuk. Look back at Avram avichem vel Sarah tchalalchem, and that's what the previous pasuk is speaking about. Avram and Sarah were reconfigured by Hashem, which enabled their childbearing. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabbi Bar Avua, Sarah imenu ailenis haisa. She was an ailenis, experienced this medical condition which made her unable to bear children. Shenemar vadhi Sarah akara. Ein lo valad. Why the repetition? Well, if she's an akara, she's barren, of course there are no children. The chiddush is afilu beis valad ein la. She was lacking even the physical chamber which can potentially bear a child. It's amazing that our whole existence, Klal Yisrael's whole existence, is a miraculous existence, supernatural existence. We came about through nace, beyond the physical. The halacha that we learned about 10 years. 10 years being the maximum, up until when they can wait. That's only that stretch, that allowance is only for years gone by. The earlier generations, they lived long lives, 500 years, 600 years, so they can afford to wait 10 years. But nowadays, life's much shorter. We can't afford a 10-year wait. You wait 2.5 years and that's it. So that's how many months? 30 months. Why 30 months? Keneged corresponds to shloisha iburim. 3 potential pregnancy periods. So you have 9 months each, right? Times 3 is 27. Rashi says you have to add a month for each one for the Yimei Tumah v'Tahara. So you wait that long, you give her 3 chances, and that's it. Try again. Rabbi Amar of Nachman, he gave a different shiur. You wait 3 years. Shalish Shanim, Keneged Shalish Pekidas correspond to 3 Rosh Hashanah, when Hashem potentially could have remembered her, so to speak, L'Toiva, and decreed that she should become Mu'beres. You wait 3 years, and that's it. D'Amar Mar, as we learned in the Maseches Rosh Hashanah, on the day of Rosh Hashanah, Nifkedu, we remember L'Toiva, Sarah Imenu, and Rachel Imenu, and Chana. So that's the time when Hashem is masker, the Akores. You wait 3 of those, and if it's unsuccessful, you try again. Rosh Hashanah Nifkedu, Sarah, Rachel, v'Chana. Amar Rabba. No, less new lanikloli. I don't agree with all these new numbers. It's 10 years, it's always 10 years. Michti. Let's take a look. Masnissen man Token. Who composed our Mishnayos? Who edited the Mishnayos? Rabbi, right? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rabbi HaKadosh. And during his times, how long did they live? 7 years, just like us. Well, we made David Imachni, already in David HaMelech's times, before Rabbi HaKadosh. Life expectancy dropped. 7 years, that's it. If you're lucky, 80. Right? So if Rebbe is giving the shir of Eser Shanim, and he's speaking for his times, when the average lifespan was 70, 80 years. But that's the average lifespan, as it says in the pasuk. It's interesting that Tosfos brings here that this pasuk is in which capital? That's Tefillah LaMoshe. And Moshe Rabbeinu lived he lived much longer than 70. So Tosfos says, Mistam David HaMelech said it. Because that's exactly how long David HaMelech lived. But Moshe Rabbeinu lived way longer than that. So this pasuk refers to David HaMelech's lifetime. In any case, the fact that Rabbi HaKadosh in our Mishnayos works with the 10-year formula, despite the fact that they only lived a relatively shorter life, apparently it applies to all, for all time. Now let's go back to the halacha that we mentioned before, that after 10 years and they weren't zeicha, yoitzi v'yiten ksuva, right? So they have to separate, but he has to pay the ksuva because perhaps he's at fault. Shema lo zocha libanes mimena, right? The question is, why is the default assumption that he's at fault? V'hai shema lo zocha libanes mimena. Why are you saying that? Maybe she's at fault. Maybe it's her schus that's lacking here. Answers the Gemara, Ihi, the Isha, the wife, Kivan the loy mifkada pirivya rivya. Since she's not obligated in the mitzvah of puravu, it's a man's mitzvah. Like Ma'ansha, Hashem would not punish her in this way. Apparently the punishment relates to him and he has to pay up. Now getting back to the Mishnah, what we learned, that after 10 years, if they're unsuccessful, he has to do something. He has to perhaps marry another wife. and give it another try. Eini, is that correct? We seem to have a story which doesn't really tell this line. The Rabbanan told Rav Abba, Nosiv itas, go ahead and try again, marry another wife and bring children. When he told him, it's too late. Izakai, if I would have been worthy of having children, I certainly would have had them from the first wife. How could he say that? Didn't we learn in the Mishnah? He meant to try again. Answers the Gemara, it wasn't really the correct response. It was just sort of a teretz. Hasam over there, he was just pushing them away. It wasn't the real answer. The real answer was that he was no longer able to have children. Why? The Rav Abba bar Zavda, he became an akar. He became medically unfit, unable to bear children. How? We had this the other day because of the long drushes of Rav Huna, and the Talmidim who would be right beside Rav Huna had a very hard time leaving, and they would just wait and hold back from tending to their personal needs, which would harm them physically and make them unable to have children. That's what happened to him. Otherwise, certainly he would have married again and tried again. Likewise, Rav Gidel, same thing happened to him. He became an akar from where? Mipirkid Rav Huna. Rav Chelbi as well. Akar mipirkid Rav Huna. Rav Sheshes as well. Akar mipirkid Rav Huna. Rav Achavar Yaakov, he was lucky. Rav Achavar Yaakov achadate suskinta. He was gripped by the suskinta condition, very close to becoming fully ill. Tal Yuha ba'arza de Beirav, they hung him on the tree in the Beis Medrash of Rab, and that somehow cured him. V'nafach minei, and out from him came this illness in a form of a green substance, kuhutza yarka, this green palm leaf. In any case, he was saved at the last moment. Amar Achavar Yaakov, and indeed he made this comment. He says, "Look, Shitin Sabi Havina, we were 60 Talmid Chachamim in the Beis Medrash of Rab. V'kulu Iakur Repikid Rav Huna, and we were 60 in the Beis Medrash of Rav Huna, and we all of them, became akar, became barren because of the long shiurim. Levar me'ana, I was the exception. The kaimi ben avshoy, because I applied to myself. Hachachma techaya ba'aleh, wisdom keeps its owner alive. Some Mepharshim explained that he knew exactly how to manipulate the system. His body was not affected by the fact that he was prevented from tending to his needs, and he was saved at the last moment. So what does the Mishnah say? After 10 years are up, he has to go for another try. So let's say he divorces her. She's allowed to proceed, marry another fellow, wait another 10 years. Says the Gemara, what about if the second couple is unsuccessful as well? 10 years are up, once again, and he divorces her. Can she go marry Levi? She married Reuven, 10 years are up. She married Shimon, 10 years are up. Can she go marry Levi? It would sound from the Mishnah that she cannot. Levi has to bring children. This woman has a track record. It's already twice that she hadn't born any children. Perhaps it's a chazaka. This is what she is. This is her nature. The third fellow can marry her for the sake of children. Sheni in. The second fellow, Shimon, go ahead. But Shlishi loy, but not Levi. After 10 years with Shimon Arab, apparently twice, is a chazaka. Is that so? Is a chazaka established by repeating once, twice, or do you need 3 times in order to establish a proven track record? This is machlekes Tanai, whether it's 2 or 3. The Mishnah, which indicates that it's 2, how do we see that from the Mishnah? The fact that she married Reuven and then Shimon with no children, she shouldn't go marry Levi because it repeated once and again. Mas Nisan Mani, who's speaking in this Mishnah? Whose shita is this? Which one of the 2 Tanaim? Rebbe, who holds that a twice repetition is considered chazaka. The Sanya we see with regards to bris milah. Mala harisha numeis. Mother had a child. She took him to the bris milah. It was a traumatic experience. He passed away. Sheni, she tried again with her second child, Umeis. He also passed away. Shlishi lo tamol, the third time around, don't take him to the moil. There is indication of some sort of medical vulnerability, medical weakness, perhaps a clotting issue. You have a track record, you have a chazaka. It failed once, it failed again, twice. That's enough to create a track record and a chazaka. Divided Rebbe. That's Rebbe's sheet. Rabban Shimon Gamliel Omer says no. Shlishi tamol. You need 3 times. So the third one is okay. Go take him to the moil. If that too fails, now you have a triple track record. Revi loy tamol. The 4th time around, don't do milah. So according to Rebbe, repeating something twice generates chazaka. According to Rabban Shimon Gamliel, you need at least 3 times. Our Mishnah, which seems to indicate that twice is enough, is following Shittas Rebbe. About Tani Ifcha, we have a brisa which switched the numbers around. Rebbe holds 3, Rabban Shimon Gamliel holds 2. Which one is more reliable? Hayman Ayach Mesa. Which one's the more recent version, which would indicate that that's the more reliable one? Tashma will bring a raya. That's the first version. He had a story as follows: Masa ba'arba achayis, a story involving 4 sisters who all had sons. B'Tzipori, in the town of Tzipori. Shemala Rishayna Umeis. Sister number 1 did milah on her son and he passed away. Shliya, the second sister, followed suit. V'meis, her son as well passed away. Shlishis v'meis, Revius v'meis. Same happened to the third, the same to the 4th. Sorry, Shlishis v'meis, the third one tried it and her son died. Revius, now it came time for the 4th sister to attempt a milah on her son. Right, it hadn't yet happened. It was only 3 times. Here comes the 4th sister. So she came to the Rav. What should I do? Bas lefnei Rabban Shimon Gamliel. Amar, he tells her, it happened 3 times. Al tamuli, don't do a bris milah. This story would indicate that it is Rabbi Shimon Gamliel indeed who holds that Betlas Zimni have a chazaka. Chazaka is created by repeating something 3 times. And that fits with the first version of the Gemara, the Bryce that we had, where Rabban Shimon Gamliel holds a chazaka is generated by repeating something 3 times, as opposed to Rebbe who holds twice is enough. Asks the Gemara, how is this a raya? How does this prove anything? Perhaps if the 3rd sister would have arrived and asked the same shal, he would have said the same thing. Maybe he really holds that twice is enough. Things that she never came to ask. It was only the 4th that happened to come ask. In Cain, if that would be the case, Maya Saduse der B'chir Ba'aba. You see, this story was presented by who? By Namayr, B'chir Ba'aba. He was coming to prove something. He was coming to teach us something. What was he coming to teach us? Just to tell us a story that has no halachic ramification, has no halachic value? Apparently he knew that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel was responding to the 4th time because he holds you need 3 times for chazaka. Maybe not. V'dilma kamashmal. Maybe that part is not really conclusive. Perhaps he would have said the same thing the previous time. The point of his testimony, or Chibar Abba's testimony, is to teach us something else. Here's a chiddush. We're not speaking about 3-4 children of the same mother, as we had in the first brisa, right? Mala Rishon Ames, Shein Ames, the same mother, experiencing tragedy after tragedy with her own children, which perhaps is a stronger, indicator. It's a stronger correlating factor than in the last case where we have separate families. Rachel's son, Leah's son, Shifra's son, Bilhah's son, right? Who's to say that one can, be an indicator, one that they feed off each other, that the tragedy that happened with Rachel's son is going to provide any sort of, indication regarding what's going to happen with Leah's son. And here was the chiddush. Yes, achayos mechaskas. This pattern indicates some sort of medical weakness in the, in the broader family as well. And that's a chiddush. Perhaps that's the point of his edus. Amar Rava, based on this, says Rava, here comes another halacha. Hashta the amras achayis machaskas. Now that you've established this concept, that even among sisters we follow this pattern, which raises a serious concern as to the medical deficiencies found in this family at large. Once you validate this concern, we're going to learn another halacha. One has to be careful when he detects any sort of medical irregularities, any sort of pattern in a family. One should hold back from marrying an isha of a family. Seems to have medical issues. A family who has some sort of sickness, where they collapse and they're weak. Where they have mitzrayim. Provided you have a triple indicator. You have to see some sort of pattern. 3 individuals in that family who suffer from this condition. Interesting halacha. Okay, getting back to our shaila. What's considered a chazaka? Is it twice? Is it 3 times? Mayhavi Allah. What's the conclusion? Kiyos Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef, when he came, he said, Amar, Uvda hava kamed Rabbi Yechanan. There was a story that came to Rabbi Yechanan. A shaila that was presented to Rabbi Yechanan. B'knishta de Moin. In the Beis HaKnesses of the town of Moin. It happened b'yom Kippurim shechaliyos b'Shabbos, on Yom Kippur on Shabbos. There was a question as to whether they should do a bris milah. It was the 8th day, and there was some history behind this question. Umala Rishayna Umeis. The first child of this mother passed away through his bris milah. The same with the second son, Shni Omeis. He passed away after his bris. And this was the 3rd time around. Shlishis Ba'al Lefanav, she came to Rabbi Yechanan on Yom Kippur on Shabbos. Should I do the bris milah today? It's his 8th day. Amar la, he tells her, Lechi umuli, go do the bris. Clearly Rabbi Yechanan holds, like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, that if it's any less than 3 times, it's not an established track record, it's not a chazaka, that's a raya that he holds. Chazaka needs to be 3 times. Amar li Abaye. So Abaye turned to it sounds like the Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef who related the story, that less than 3 times is not considered an established chazaka. He says to him, this is real serious. Chazi, be very mindful. The kasharis is surah v'sakanta. By establishing this as a halacha, by teaching this halacha, you're being matir a potential isser, because you're doing a bris milah on Shabbos, on Yom Tov, on Yom Kippur. V'sakanta. You're also taking responsibility for potential sakanas nefashes. You're saying that up until 3 times, nothing to worry about. Okay. You better be sure you have it right. In any case, Samach ala Abaye, Abaye himself relied on this ruling pertaining to his own personal life. He married an Isha who had a very sad track record. Her first 2 husbands had passed away, and Abaye went and married her because of this halacha. Because look, twice is nothing. Twice is not a chazaka. Samach ala Abaye. Abaye relied on this very ruling. Va'azal, he went Nazba. He married L'Chayma, that was her name, and she was the daughter of Barta, the Isi Braid, Rav Yitzchak Braid, Rav Yehuda, and she had a track record. She had a history. Her first 2 husbands passed away. The Nazba Rochava the Medisa married her, B'Shach, when he passed away. And then again, Rabbi Yitzchak Braid, the Rabbi Bachana, he married her, B'Shach, when he passed away. And Abaye, despite all this, went ahead and married her. V'Nasbahu, and guess what happened? V'Shach, and he passed away. Amar Rava said, Umi yikada avid uvda ben avsheki. Hi, is there a person that would just go do such a thing with his own personal life like Abaye did? How could he rely on Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef's version of event, which sought to prove that twice is not to be reckoned with. Va'yu Amar. Abai himself was the one who told us that Abin the Samcha. That whenever we have Avin who's quoting Rabbi Yechanan, that's reliable. But Yitzchak Sumka, this is a reference to Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef, that's for some reason they called him Yitzchak Sumka, Lo Bar Samcha, what he says, when he quotes Rabbi Yechanan, it's not necessarily authoritative, not necessarily 100% reliable. Why? The Gemara explains, because Avin was always there, 24/7. Yeshna b'chazor. He was always there by Rabbi Yechanan, and if Rabbi Yechanan would have second thoughts and revert and be chayzer on what he said, change his mind, Avin was there to pick it up. He would know the latest, most reliable version of Rabbi Yechanan's halacha. So whenever he tells you something, you know it's true. As opposed to Yitzchak Sumka, Eina b'chazor, he wasn't necessarily always there, and he wouldn't necessarily know if Rabbi Yechanan changed his mind. So you can't really rely on the halachas that he tells us. So why did Abaye rely on Rabbi Yitzchak's version of the halacha? Why did he take the liberty to marry an Isha whose husbands had twice passed away? V'oid, another kasha. Eimar de pligi linyan mila. Sure, we find that Rabbi Shem Gamliel have a discussion regarding what's considered a chazaka with respect to bris milah. Twice, 3 times, fine. But b'nisun mipligi, when it comes to marriage-related concepts, is there a machlekes? Is there anybody that holds that until 3 times it doesn't raise a red flag? There's no concern with marrying this Isha? Why did Abaye do this? Says the one actually yes. The machlekes applies to that concept as well. Vatanya, as we learned, Ni says l'rishon omeis. Rachel marries Reuben passes away. L'sheni omeis, she marries Shimon passes away. L'shlishi le'tinase, don't go marry Levi. You have a track record. Perhaps that's Minas Shemaim. Your husband's just passed away. She shouldn't be marrying anymore. Divrei, who's speaking? Rebbe. Because he holds a repetition creates chazak. Rabban Shimon Gamliel Omer, he says no, until 3 times. You have no track record. L'shlishi tinase, go marry Levi. It's only twice. Go marry Levi. But if tragedy strikes again, the Revi tinase, she can't marry Yehuda. So it's clear in this brisa, even pertaining to marriage, the same machlekes would apply. How do we understand that? What is the Isha? Why is she to blame for her husband's death? I understand Mila. Bishlem gabe Mila, I can understand. Ika mishpacha de rafidam. You have a family whose blood is sort of looser and has a hard time clotting, and therefore dangerous to inflict a wound at that early point. You have a family whose dam is more clot-oriented, in which case it can heal easily. There's no danger to do a bris. So these are family-oriented medical conditions. So we know that if the family exhibits this type of condition, be careful. Elon is suing when it comes to marriage. My timer, why are you concerned? Why would you attribute it to the Isha? The Bashar, 2 husbands passed away. Why would you say no more marriage for her? Amalei Rav Mordechai Rav Ashi. He answers like this. Hachi Amar Avimi Me'agrunya. He said Mishmei de Rav Huna. Mayan Goyim. The woman's womb, her mayan, her source, her womb area, that's Goyim. The physical interaction with this type of Isha is perhaps the source of his illness. So once it happens once and again, that's an indication of some sort. Rav Ashi Amar has a different pshat. Mazel Goyim. Perhaps it's her mazel. Minas Shamayim. Her husband's passed away. In any case, if we see it as a track record, as a pattern, you have to really be concerned. My binayu, any difference between the 2 pshatim, whether it's the mayin or the mazel? We have 2 nafkaminas. Ike binayu. Firstly, the irsa omeis. Suppose he only engaged her. He was mekadosh her, never physically interacted, and then he passed away. You don't have the svara of mayan goyim, right? You can attribute it to that, but you do have the svara of mazel goyim. Inami, another difference would be the nafal midikla omeis. He fell off a tree, he met a tragic death. So mazel applies, but not mayan. You see clearly it has nothing to do with the isha. So bottom line is, we have many different types of applications to this halacha of chazak. We had bris milah, we had marrying an isha whose husbands passed away. We had the case now Mishnah, marrying an isha who we see time after time has no children. It would seem that in all cases we have the machlokes between Rabbi who says twice is the litmus test. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says you need 3 times to create that track record. How do we paskin? Amalei Rav Yosef, Brei the Rava, he told the Rava, I'll tell you an interesting episode. Boy min name Rav Yosef. I once asked Rav Yosef, halacha ke Rabbi? Does halacha follow Rabbi? Twice is a chazaka? That was my question. V'amali, and he responded, yeah, sure. Twice is a chazaka. Next time I asked him, halacha ke Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? Do we follow Shimon Gamliel? V'amali, he tells me, yeah, for sure. So Tosfos says, probably he asked him as follows: is halacha kerebi oy Rav Shimon Gamliel? And he says we follow both. So in any case, it's very confusing to me. Is he just mocking me? It's this, it's that. What's going on? So Rabbi says no. It was actually very exact answer. Loi, he wasn't making fun. He was answering your question. Because sometimes we follow Rebbe and sometimes we pass like Shimon Gamliel. In fact, stummy. If you look around, you find many mishnayos that are stam, like anonymous mishnahs, that were written by Rebbe purposefully in that way because we want to paskin like that. So he didn't put a name to the halacha. This way we paskin, it would appear that's the general consensus. In any case, we find many mishnayos which seem to conflict each other. Sometimes we find, a mishnah that presented as twice, being a chazaka. Sometimes the Mishnah tells us 3 times a chazaka, depending on which context. Upashet lach, and when Rav Yosef indicated to you that sometimes it's like this, sometimes like that, he meant as follows: Upashet lach. It follows the way the Mishnayos were presented and the way they were worded. On the one hand, you have nisun and malkis kirebi when it comes to the concept of when it comes to the halacha of marriage, as we spoke, or in the case of malkis, as we're going to see soon, a person's a repetitive offender. In that case, we follow Rebbe. Twice is enough to establish a chazak. When it comes to another 2 halachas, vesta is the vest of the isha nida, to establish a pattern and an established zman for nida, v'shar amud, or to establish that this ox is a habitual gorer. When it comes to those halachas, we need 3 times. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. This pretty much follows the pattern of the Mishnayos. By Nisuin, by Malkis, Rebbe was soisim in the Mishnah, like Rebbe shit, like Rebbe shita, that it's twice. When it comes to the other halachas, we find the Mishnayos went the other way. You need 3 times for chazak. Explains the Gemara. Where do we find this? Nisuin, when it comes to marriage-oriented halachis, hadamar, as we just had now a Mishnah. No children from number 1, number 2. That's it, you can't marry a 3rd time. Because once it happens twice, that's a chazak. Malchus, where do we find 2 is considered a track record when it comes to Malchus? If he's a repetitive offender and establishes himself as a Rasha, then he's liable to very, very severe punishment. It's not. Misha Laka Vishana. This fellow did an Avera. He violated a lav and got Malchus. And did it again. We see this fellow is a Rasha based in Koinsinais Lekipa. Bezin takes him into this narrow chamber. This Alacha Meshim Resina. You treat him like this. They feed him barley. I should trade Kreis and Ifkaz until his stomach bursts. So a double offender, a repetitive offender, even just twice, is considered a chazaka when it comes to these things. When it comes to vestais, it's 3 times, it's not. Ein isha kevas lavest. How does the isha establish for herself a set time, a vest, on which day we can expect her period? The nafkamina would be that she sees dam on that day, on which she expects that period, We know it came today. We don't have to suspect that it came earlier. Likewise, says Rashi, she has to check herself. She has to examine herself on that day, because that day is the day which she's liable to become tummy. How does that get established? How do we determine that this is her vest? This is her set day of Re'iyas Nida? 3 times. Eina isha kavas la vest. Asher tikve'enu shalish pa'amim. She had to have experienced Re'iyas Dam on that day of the month, that day of the week, whatever, however it works, but it had to happen 3 times in a row. And likewise, she can't uproot that until she switches 3 times. She can't uproot the vet. She doesn't become tar, meaning she can't delete this vest from her calendar until she uproots, until she changes 3 times, during which she'll see on different days, right? So clearly, the din of vest nidas depend upon 3 times. V'shor amud. What about the shor amud? How do we know it takes 3 times? It's not in a shor nas amud. Ache idboy shleisha pa'amim. When the shor gores 3 times, he has established for himself a track record that he's a wild animal. He's a habitual gorer, in which case his owner is now fully responsible to pay all his damages. So the bottom line is, when it comes to the question of chazaka, is it twice or 3 times? It can go either way. It depends what we're speaking about. When it comes to marriage-oriented issues or malchiyos, it's twice. When it comes to vest nida, shor amud, it's 3 times. That's how we pass it. Now the Mefarshim, all the Rishonim ask the same kasha. How could this be? We're dealing with one issue. What constitutes a track record? What creates a chazaka? It's either twice or 3 times. How can we have it both ways? When it comes to some halachas, it's twice. When it comes to other halachas, it's 3 times. And in fact, Taisus is mashma that Rebbe would agree. He agrees that by nida, by shor amud, it's 3 times. How can that be? According to Rebbe, it's twice. The Mefarshim explain like this. It all depends what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to verify. There are 2 types of chazakas. One is more of an indication. It's a gili milsa. It's a revelation. Nisun. Her husband's passed away. That raises a red flag. That's an indicator of some sort, that she's a dangerous. She's a mayan. There's a mazel. That's creating this sakana, this danger. So if it's just once, that's just a happening. That's just a random chance happening. It doesn't really prove anything. But once you get past that first time, that raises a concern. It's not necessarily an established fact. It doesn't necessarily confirm anything. It's not a vaday, but it's enough to raise a question mark, in which case you take precaution. Especially when we're dealing with sakanas nefashis. You don't marry her the 3rd time. When it comes to the child of bris milah, same halacha. It's once, it's again, 1 second. We have to take extra precaution. True, we haven't really proved anything. Perhaps that only happens after 3, but once you have it twice, it's enough to say 1 second. Let's hold back. Because there, it's not you're not establishing anything. It's just an indicator. It's megala on a pre-existing condition. And twice is enough to raise that concern. But when it comes to things that are habit related, shor amud, he's a tame animal. 3 times, now you're habitual. Now you're a wild animal. It happens through goring. The isha with the vest. You're not proving anything. You're making that track record. You're establishing a vest. That needs 3 times. Once, and again. Now you've established it. It's not an indication. It's not a gilui milsa. You're not trying to discover some pre-existing condition here. You're trying to create, this is my vest. You're trying to establish, now he's a wild animal. And that happens through goring. The isha becomes kavua when she has that track record, when she creates that and establishes that habit. So in that case, you need 3 times to establish it. And actually, according to the Rambam, by the Rasha as well, it's only 3 times. He learns the Gemara differently, based on the Gemara in Sanhedrin, that it's 3 times, because you have to he has to become a habitual offender. It's not a gilui milsa, it's not a pre-existing condition. Every person's a tzaddik to start off, right? Unfortunately, after once, twice, and 3 times, he has become entrenched in Avera. So there's a big difference between Nisuin and Bris Mila, where you're just trying to uncover a pre-existing condition. Once you have twice, that's enough to raise that concern to be careful. As opposed to cases where you're trying to establish a track record going forward. That happens through once, and again, oh, now I have it. So the bottom line is, we learned about the virtues of being icing a piravi rivya, brings about shchina, etc. We wait 10 years. 10 years in Eretz Yisrael, right? And in absence of any other mitigating factors, after 10 years, it's time to start thinking about further efforts. Either adding a wife or being a garish. And as the Gemara tells us, this applies even nowadays. We learned about the Avos and Imois who are totally unable to bear children, and miraculously Hashem switched things around through that tefillah, which Hashem truly desires, and that's why Hashem created the condition to begin with. Because Hashem is mis'avel tefillah shel tzaddikim. We concluded with the halacha of the chazaka, twice, 3 times, machlekes tanoim, and the final psak halacha. All the best to you and much hatzlacha.